Bear down, Bears fans. Another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the designer, Jason McKie in the building. We got to talk about a lot of the conversations that have been happening down at the owners' meetings here. We've heard from Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles says he wants to build a tough and gritty Chicago Bears team. I love it. I like what I'm hearing there. But can we believe that they're actually going to do that? And then I want to get J-Mac's reaction to the Caleb Williams under center comments that Ben Johnson made and how that's actually going to help him moving forward. All that and more today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. J-Mac, where we at in the high school season right now, my guy?
Off season, man. Off season conditioning, off season weightlifting. Our kids just came back from spring break, so our first day back conditioning was Monday. A lot of guys throwing up in trash cans. A lot of guys, they did exactly what they did on their spring break. They took a break. And I told them, hey, you better get some type of running in, because when we come back, we're not easing back into this thing. We're hitting the ground running. And that's literally what we did. So guys, hit the trash can running and a lot of throw up. So shout out to all my guys, the janitors, the maintenance staff. They had to clean up the trash cans. I apologize, but we appreciate you guys for doing so. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Trying to create chemistry in the offseason, trying to get bigger, faster, and stronger. And this is where games are won. The Bears will be starting next week.
Yeah,
their offseason program. So they'll be doing a lot of the same things. Trying to build bonds, new coaches, new head coach, new teammates, new way of doing things, which we're going to talk about. So. That's football, man. It's where it all starts. This is where, games are won and lost right now.
What year did you stop throwing up at training camp?
Honestly, I never threw up at training camp. It was training camp. It was grueling because we had true two-a-days.
Yeah.
And, we would have the funny thing is, we be out there twice a day in pads. And I know Love used to love having a night practice out there at Olivet Nazarene, which was awesome because we did it in the stadium. So it was like, you got that high school nostalgia, it was like playing high school ball again. So I know we used to get amped up for that. And then the next day, the first practice would be like a special teams practice. And that, believe it or not, the special teams practice was the hardest practice because we had Dave Tobe, who is now the current Kansas City Chiefs special teams coordinator. And it was like a straight track meet, bro. I'm telling you, Coach Tobe did not give a damn. You're running 100 miles an hour on kickoffs. You're running like 10 in a row, and then you're going to kickoff return. It was a straight track meet, bro. But it was tough, man. But a lot of good times in training camp, and a lot of bonding took place. And like I said, that's where the games are really won.
Yeah,
in the preparation.
Listen, let's hope the Chicago Bears can get off to a much quicker start. We do got to let you guys know the Chicago Bears podcast is brought to you by the Advantage Dealer Group. Find your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes, or they'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana. Las Vegas-style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field, exit 6, right off of I-80-94. You talk about, J-Mac, how this process starts and where this all begins. And listen, it does begin at training camp, but for Ryan Poles, it begins in these months here where you get the team building opportunities. You're going to get an opportunity now, if you are Ryan Poles, to put together what he says he wants to build a tough, gritty Chicago Bears team. Here's my question though, Jamie. We haven't seen that. He's been building this team for 4 years. And there's not a ton of players on this team that we can say fit that mold.
Yeah.
I think that we're starting to get some in here. We're getting a Grady Jarrett in here. You get Joe Tooney in here. I think that Drew Dahlman fits that mold. I would say DJ Moore kind of falls in line with that there as well. Jalen Johnson, a good name. TJ Edwards, very gritty player. Jaquan Brisker, hard hitter. But for the most part, that has not been the identity of this Chicago Bears football team. So start things off. Is this something that you believe Ryan Poles actually is focused on accomplishing, or does it feel more like, as we say, lip service?
No, I think he is focused in on it. I mean, the reason being, like you mentioned those adjectives and, tough, gritty, physical, having a physicality, having that presence, right? Well, what have we been here in Chicago the last few years? We've been getting our ass kicked by teams that have that type of identity, right?
Yeah.
We've been getting our ass kicked by teams that are gritty. We've been getting our ass kicked by teams that are physical, right? So at the end of the day, that's what this game is. And it starts in the trenches. So you've seen him addressing that, right? We see Grady Jarrett, a physical guy, a guy that still has a lot left in the tank. You look at, Joe Tooney, a guy who's been successful in his league for a long time. I think he's won with 4 Super Bowls. A guy who's gritty, who's physical, knows how things should be done, and having that physical, identity and mentality, right? That's just the start. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, when the weather gets bad, as we know, and if you want to be a playoff team, you want to be playing your best ball later on in the season. And to play your best ball later on in the season, right? When the weather's bad, you're gonna have to be physical. You're gonna have to be tough, right? Because there's gonna be times where you're gonna have to just sit there and you're gonna say, you know what? We're running the ball right here, and we don't give a shit. You got to stop us. Yeah. We're coming off the ball. You know what I mean? And have we been that type of team these past few years? No, not even close. So I think having that identity of physicality, toughness, all of those adjectives, right? It goes beyond just the football field as well, Pat, because you got to have those type of guys in the building on a daily basis, right? You got to have the guys who aren't afraid to have the tough conversations with guys that aren't doing things the right way. Tough conversations with the guys who, aren't, upholding the standard and expectation. You got to have gritty guys that will speak up when things aren't going well, but you got to have guys not only that are speaking up, but they're actually walking the walk. And I think Poles mentioned that, during his press conference the other day, when he was saying that, it's one thing to have leaders, right? Lead the team and say all the right things. But if they're not playing at a high level, if they're not practicing, well, then the young guys, they're going to look at it as fool's gold. Well, he's saying all these things, but he ain't playing. He's not practicing. And we've been saying this for weeks, Pat, right? I've talked about this all the time. Like, last year you had leaders, and I just, it is what it is. Call a spade a spade. You had leaders, right? Leading the team, giving the pregame speech, but you didn't practice all week. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, as a young player, like, I'm looking at that. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, how is this guy leading the team, right? He's a leader by example. He's a vocal leader, but he's not practicing. He's in a sweatsuit while we're out here grinding. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the guys that I played with, and I can only talk about when I played, but I know a lot of the better teams and a lot of former players will say the same thing. The true leaders of the team are the hardest working guys, right? Because they're always under a microscope. Somebody's always looking at them, whether you're a young player, whether you're a veteran player, trying to make trying to make yourself known. You're always looking at these guys and seeing how they do things, right? But not only how they do things, are they still producing? And, and those are the type of guys that you want leading your team. And those are the type of guys that, enhance and build culture and uphold the expectations and standards that the head coach sets in place.
Yeah, and listen, I think you got some really good coaches that can do that here, especially with adding Eric Bieniemy in. I love the conversation that Ben Johnson had around him, talking about how Eric Bieniemy is somebody who, listen, he's going to coach the piss out of these guys.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but it seems like – hey, go ahead, tell me what it means. This sounds like there needs to be some pills or something in place to help these guys out afterwards.
Yeah, that means like Eric Bieniemy, former running back, former offensive coordinator, a guy who's done this at every level, has success at every level. It means like, hey, you know what? We're on an outside zone. You're not just going to freestyle your landmark. Whatever your landmark is, whether it's the outside leg of that tight end, whether it's the butt of the tight end, whether it's inside leg of the tight end, you're going to press your landmark. You're going to run your track until something takes you off of it and then make your read. You ain't going to run an outside zone and trying to cut back as soon as you get the ball. It doesn't work because now your lineman can't work. So then the play doesn't work. And that's not what you're coached to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the level of accountability that we're about to see from Eric Bieniemy in that running back room. And just with him holding these guys to a different level, to a different standard in terms of aiming points, landmarks, you know what I'm saying, reads and stuff like that, that's going to just make the running game better. That's just a start.
Yeah, listen, I think that's the big thing, right? When you talk about Al Harris coming in, when you talk about Antoine Randall, when you talk about Dan Richard, when you talk about Eric Bieniemy, there's a common theme with these guys. They're not sitting there coddling you. They're not sitting. No. I don't want to see it. Please don't. We don't need to see it anymore. but I'm almost like excited to see what's going to happen if somebody tries to pull anything close to what Tyreek Stevenson pulled last season. I mean, like what's going to happen on that sideline if something like that arises? Because the big word, J-Mac, has been accountability. And I don't know if this team is prepared with some of the pieces that were there last season for the accountability that it seems like this coaching staff is truly going to bring in. And I think that's, to me, where the toughness is going to be built. I think there's going to be quite a bit of bumping heads in the beginning of this process because some of these guys have been here for 2 coaching staffs that haven't really held people accountable. Some of these guys have been here for just the Matt Eberflus coaching staff. But it has been this way in Hallis Hall for a long time, and it is going to be a stark difference. And usually when these massive changes come in personalities like that, it doesn't just blow over smoothly. It's not just a perfect transition. There's going to be some words exchanged from the coaching staff and these players.
Yeah, you heard Ben Johnson, right? His initial press conference. What did he say? Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I remember my rookie year down in Dallas, and our head coach was Dave Campo, who was a lot more relaxed. We got away with a lot of things that we shouldn't have, and I'm a rookie, so I'm following suit. So these guys ain't doing this, I ain't doing this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they hired Bill Parcells, and you talk about a drastic change. Like you see Bill Parcells walking down the hallway. As a rookie, you're afraid. You turn and you got to go this way, but you're going to turn and walk the other way just because of the fact that you don't want to see Bill Parcells, right? And he put that fear in you. He would call you out. Didn't matter who you were. Didn't matter if you was a 10-time Pro Bowler, just signed a new contract. He held everybody to the same level and the same standard. And he struck fear in you. And I'm still scared of that man to this day.
Parcells still got you shook, dog.
Parcells was a man. That's why he's one of the best to ever do it. But like it was crazy. It was crazy, man. It was awesome.
The goal, I think, is to see this through. And I think it does help that now you have some leaders in the trenches that are actually going to play in games, like you mentioned there, right? Like there's a lot of people last season who were on that leadership council who just weren't playing in games, right? And different things like that. But the one thing that I want to get from you is the player perspective on kind of how is that toughness received? You had those guys. You went through the fear of Bill Parcells, right? You go through being in a room with Dave Tobe, who's running you all over the place. How is the coaches being tougher on you received in the beginning, and then when you actually see the results of it? Because y'all beginning wasn't perfect, right? I'm sure there was probably some like, hey, this ain't working. And then all of a sudden it start working.
Yeah, you're mad. You're cussing them out. You're talking under your breath. You're like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Like, this is crazy. Like, even Lovey's first year, like everybody, you take Coach Smith and everybody says, oh, he's just so this. He's so kind. He doesn't yell in front of you guys. In front of the media, he didn't yell. You know what I mean? I mean, like, I remember his first training camp. We had so many guys hurt. Urlacher was out for the first few games because he pulled a hamstring. Like, it was physical, man. Like, we were trying to kill each other in training camp, but it made us tougher. And we were like, man, like, what is coach doing? Going one-on-ones, goal line in the middle of training camp. He's going to get somebody hurt. But what he was doing was he was really trying to establish an identity, right? He was really trying to make his football team tough and physical. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't have those type of things going on, if you're not preparing that way, well, then how are you going to be a tough team, right? If we're talking about we're being physical, right, we're a physical football team, but we don't wear pads for the first 7 days in training camp. Well, how physical are we going to be? I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Can't have it both ways, J-Mac.
I just don't understand. Like, you know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense. Like, that doesn't go together. You know what I mean? Like, it's initially, we didn't receive the reception in terms of Lovey it wasn't no resistance because at the end of the day, you had to get in or
be the boss,
get right or get left,
right.
Get with the program or get cut. So, but you're like, damn, this is crazy. Like, and when you start having success, we go to the playoffs, you go to the Super Bowl, and you start seeing, things turn around. You start seeing the defense play the way they were playing. You start, this offense is moving, the run game's moving, we're physical. Like, you start to see, okay, he knows what he's doing. This is working. Like, we have to do this. The grind is worth it. You're going to practice more than you play. You know what I'm saying? So we've got to go out there and put our best foot forward and have the best practice or practice like we're in the Super Bowl if we want to reach that pinnacle. And if we're not doing that, if we're not, practicing critical situations or every situation you may encounter in a game in practice, well, guess what? You're going to fail on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, or whatever day you're playing. You're going to fail on those days if you're not prepared for it.
I love that. You're going to practice more than you play. That's true in just about everything. I mean, as a musician, you practice in the basement all the time, and you go out there and play one concert maybe a month, or every couple of months you play one concert. That is truly facts with it. And I think that was the big concern, I think, coming into last season. And it is the concern that I still have, right? The trust factor of this is I'm at a see it to believe it point with everything with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
Because we're 2 regimes through and false starts are still a problem. That may be a talent issue at this point. We're 2 regimes through and we can't stay lined up. We're 2 regimes through and wide receivers don't know not to jump early on the screenplay. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that these guys are going to have to coach out, which is why, I almost do look at this as I've said, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm still, at best, this season is going to be a 9-8 season for the Chicago Bears because I think you're going to have to go through those growing pains. You're going to have to go through those moments where somebody that's been in there that's been chilling and has had it real good is going to speak up, and you're going to have to win that person over, and they're very integral to the success of the Bears.
You mean we're not going to go undefeated? What's wrong with you, man?
Listen, if we do, shout out to Ben Johns. First off, he'd be a god if he went undefeated his first season.
I hope we do. Like you said, man, I'm remaining even keel. I'm excited with the things that they've done, and they've done it every offseason. They've made exciting moves and made some good moves to help this team improve. But now we got to see it. We got to see the off season, transition to the season. Us having a successful season. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you mentioned all of the things that get you beat. You mentioned the false starts. You mentioned the lack of accountability. You mentioned the lack of discipline, right? And what coaches, one mantra that coaches say, or the creed that we live by is, you're either coaching it or you're allowing it, right? So if there's a lot of false starts, right? If there's pre-snap shifts and motions, defense can't get lined up. All that falls on the coach. And it's tough. I'm a head coach, and we didn't make the playoffs last year. And it fell on me because of the things that we're talking about right now, accountability, discipline. You overlook those things. You started having success, and you overlook little things that enabled you to have that success, right? So you're either coaching it or allowing it. So, we've got to coach the pre-snap penalties out of our team. We got to make sure the defense, we got to make sure our players are disciplined and not celebrating during a play. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that you have to do, and guys may be resistant to it to begin with, but at the end of the day, you're going to do it Ben Johnson's way, the Bears way, or whatever way he wants to do it, or you're not going to be on the team.
And I think that's the thing too, right? It's about getting the right people in there. I do wonder, and when it comes to toughness, I'm not saying that any of these guys ain't tough. Listen, if they met me in a dark alley, I wouldn't want to fight none of them. They all massive human beings.
Yeah.
But so this ain't a LeBron Stephen A situation. But the one thing that I do wonder about is we know how the Bears have picked personalities in the past. They want the good guys. They want the nice guys. They want the guys that play well with others. They want the guys who are going to come in there and be, happy-go-lucky and make it a good locker room and make it a fun environment, which is great.
You should have
always great on the football field.
But you should have that. We should be able to be in the locker room, everybody singing Kumbaya. But then we get a chance to go on the field. We flip that switch, and now we're assholes.
That's the part. We didn't have a switch. We just had to Kumbaya with a lot of people.
Right. That's what you don't want. I get it. And I think that with the moves that he's made, and I'm not saying that's going to change everything, but just looking at this coaching staff, right? And I look at the coaching staff first because that's where it starts, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to take Ben Johnson out of the equation. Yes, he's the head of the coach staff, but I'm going to take him out of the equation. I look at the people in place that he's brought in. You look at the Dennis Allens, right? You look at the Eric Bieniemys. You look at the Al Harrises, like guys who have had success in this league, no nonsense guys. Who's going to help really establish that identity and culture, right? That level of physicality, right? We know Eric Bieniemy is not going to leave no stone unturned. He's going to hold his running back room to the highest of standards.
Yeah.
And expectations will be met, right? Al Harris, the same way. That's the way Al Harris played the game. He was physical, no nonsense. He was gritty. He was in your face. He's talking trash, right? He may have got beat on some plays, but he's right back, playing man to man, making plays. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's how he's going to have that defensive secondary operating. You know what I mean? You have guys who have done it, guys that understand what it takes to be successful and what are the non-negotiables of the team if you want to have a playoff team, but if you want to have a Super Bowl caliber team. And I think that's, those hires that he made is huge for Ben Johnson and this Bears team.
Hey, let us know how you guys feel in the comments below. Do you guys believe that Ryan Poles can build this tough, gritty Bears team that he wants based on some of the things we've seen in his history, but a lot of the change? And I will say this, J-Mac, we talked about it a lot last year, right? And especially me. I was very upset that you put my brand new quarterback in a very similar situation that you put the old guy who I wanted to be successful here by protecting him and giving him receivers and giving him a run game and all these things. You put the new quarterback in a very tough situation just like that. But it is kind of judge Ryan Poles off of a clean slate right now. Now, I'm not saying that everything's perfect, that he's going to have his job. There's still a lot that has to be done here. But he got a coaching staff in here that, listen, even if you thought we were getting Ben Johnson, you didn't think this was coming with it. You didn't think Dennis Allen. You didn't think Antoine Randall. You didn't think Al Harris. You didn't think all of these names where you're like, when he said people were calling him saying you just got the best running back coach in the NFL, bar none. Multiple teams are calling him saying that. Like, you don't think that Eric Bieniemy is a part of this equation. Even when we had got everybody else, when the Eric Bieniemy news came across, everybody was like, I thought he was coaching in college. What the heck is this? Like, it is a credit to, yes, Ben Johnson brought his staff in, but it's a credit to Ryan Poles for getting these guys in the building. A credit to Ryan Poles for the offseason that he's had. Is that a collaborative effort with Ben Johnson? And maybe Ben Johnson has a little more input? Sure. But the GM still got to get credit for that. Like, the clean slate that we're starting from, it does feel like this is building the team much more mirrored than how the Bears built the team over the previous 3 years with Matt Eberflus in the building. And you kind of got to give them that clean slate of, all right, let's see what this team is going to be able to do. Can they hit the ground running?
Yeah, like you said, it's good to see that they're on the same page. That's the one thing, right? If you're and Ben Johnson's been mentioning that in a lot of his press conferences. He's been mentioning that, it's been a collaborative effort. Him, Ryan Poles, the coordinators, they've all been grinding tape, watching these prospects, right? All need to be on the same page. We need to know what type of player Dennis Allen wants for his defense. I need to know what type of player that myself and the offensive coordinator Declan wants for this offense to make this offense go, and what type of player we need via whatever position that we're scouting to make sure this offense operates at a high level. Coach Hightower, special teams. He mentioned all of those things, right? Yeah. All of these coordinators, Ryan, the scouts, the head coach are all in the room, watching film, scouting, breaking down tape collaboratively to make sure that they have the right pieces in place in the right fits that they want in their particular systems. That's awesome to hear. That's great news because now, like you said, we're all on the same page. We all have the same heartbeat. We're all, trying to make this thing work collaboratively together. And if you don't have that type of connection, well, then things ain't going to work. It's not going to work the way you need it to work. If the GM wants a guy, he wants a running back that's just mainly a zone runner, and I'm trying to implement an offense that relies on more gap scheme, well, then it ain't going to work because he's going to bring in a running back that doesn't fit the type of system I'm trying to install. You see what I mean? So it's all being on the same page, no egos. Let's work together. Let's make this thing happen. And it's good to see that from what we're hearing, that's what they're starting to do.
Yeah, that's the hope, that we can keep that going and actually get that from off-season production to production on the field. And as Ben Johnson said, it's going to be fun.
Hope so.
It's going to be fun.
I hope so. I haven't had a lot of fun on the sidelines.
You want to know what I really
I have had a lot of fun, but
you want to know what I really want to see is going to be interesting is how different is training camp going to be? Because we saw, I think they were on Hard Knocks, or maybe the Lions just released this video But it was a video of like Dan Campbell basically like laying into the entire team saying, we don't get that many of these training camps where we can go out there and put on pads and hit people. You cannot waste these. Today was a wasted day. Let's not do that again tomorrow. It's going to be so interesting to me to see the difference in a training camp from the first year of Ben, or from the last year of Matt Eberflus to the first year of Ben Johnson. Because I went to all, Flus had 3 years. I went to all 3 of Matt Eberflus's training camps. The first year, J-Mac, running, flying, everything you want to see in a training camp. There's no talent on the team. Everybody's trying to make the team. Everybody, it was a bunch of like, you know, undrafted dudes and guys who are like 6th-round picks that you're trying to get a flyer on to figure out. And so it's just like everybody's flying around and running. I remember going back year 2 and being like, no one's running to the ball. Nobody's being aggressive. But remember, they got fined. Remember, they got fined because their practices were too aggressive. And it was like, hey, you got to dial that back. I wonder how that's going to go over here, because I don't see the coaching staff that we have here as the dial it back group, especially Eric.
Right. And he's been a part of an organization that's always in the Super Bowl. So what's their, you know, he has an opportunity to give you insight in terms of what their formula was like or had been up there in Kansas City that enabled them to have sustained success, not only make the playoffs, but make the Super Bowl each and every year. And that's like value, right? That, we're talking about it, but you can't overlook that. That's huge value, because you get it. You not only have a running back coach, you have a running back coach that was the offensive coordinator of a team that had one of the best offenses in the league, but a team that was getting to the Super Bowl each and every year. Like, that's tremendous value.
Well, and you also listen, from what I've heard from people who I know down in Kansas City who get to go to training camp down there, stuff like that. Like, I'm sure Andy Reid was like this when you were with him, but like Andy Reid don't run no like walk through training camp.
No.
Like, Andy Reid has the best quarterback in the NFL, and he's running this dude through the ringer like it's like the Super Bowl is tomorrow. Like, they practice very aggressively and very they're not being timid in any of their practices. They're not taking it easy and we want to make sure that you get a rest. Like, they're going after it. Like, maybe now you'll see guys get a little more rest. Travis Kelce get a little more rest. Travis Kelce got to be there for the season though. Like, Travis Kelce a little bit older, a little bit long in the tooth.
Like the best coaches that I've man, it's been a blessing to be around so many great coaches. And like the biggest thing that I'll take from all of them, the one thing they all had in common, they may have had different styles. They may have different personalities and approach to the way they actually coach it. But one thing that was consistent is they were over detailed in everything that they did. You know what I mean? So it was, if the focus was red zone one day, it was over detailed. We practiced every single scenario. We practiced the what ifs, what could happen in every single situation, right? And the one thing that they didn't let slip was the energy, right? The tempo in practice, the energy, right? It was awesome, man. Like, and I think that's why, you know, you look at the great coaches, and I'll just talk about the coaches that I had an opportunity to play for, and you know, the Andy Reids, going from Andy Reid to Bill Parcells, going from Bill Parcells to Lovie Smith, going from Lovie Smith to John Harbaugh, who was under Andy Reid when I was there in Philly. And you look at all the coaches that Andy Reid churned out. You know, I mean, when I was in Philly, it was crazy. Like, I mean, so many coaches left that coaching tree and went on to be head coaches and coaching in the NFL. Like, Sean McDermott was a defensive quality control coach my rookie year in Philly. Ron Rivera was a linebacker coach. Leslie Frazier was a DB coach. Brad Childress was the offensive coordinator. David Culley, who was a head coach at Houston, Texas for a year, was the wide receiver coach. Deuce Staley was my teammate. Hank Fraley was my teammate. Like, Dave Tobe was the assistant special teams coach.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable, man. Al Harris was my teammate.
But
like,
I think that's such a key point, though, J-Mac, right? Like, you see what that has done for all of you guys in life past just being in pads. Like, you see what that has done for how detailed you are with how you coach your kids in high school. Al Harris coaching at the NFL level, how detailed he is. He was such a good coach that they were like, no, make him the assistant head coach. We cannot let him leave to go somewhere else and be a defensive coordinator or something like that. Like, you see all of these guys who you played with, who you coached under with, or who you went to war with or were coached by with Andy Reid, having this success in other areas. And it is because, at least in my mind, how detailed it is, how this is the process you got to go through to be successful on a play in and play out basis. And literally, we talking play in and play out. Like, I love how Waddle explains it. I had him break it down one day on the podcast. All the things that have to happen for a 5-yard hitch to work.
Yes.
Like, it's not like if one person messes up, like, it's over. Like, it's a broken play, and it maybe something can happen, but it's a lot harder for it to work.
Yeah, just think about it, right? And it's like a clock. And I tell my kids this in high school, right? It's like a clock, right? And I'll go with offense, but it can be for any phase: offense, defense, special teams, right? This relates to any phase. But for one particular play to work, for one particular coverage to work, for one particular return on special teams to work, you got to have all 11 parts, all 11 pieces, right, in that clock, right? They all got to be doing their job for that watch to tick, for that play to work, for that play to be executed, right? If there's one thing that's off in that watch, that Apple Watch that you have, whatever kind of watch, right? That Rolex that Pat the designer is wearing right now.
Hey, I have no Rollie on me. No Rollie on me.
The ESPN Chicago paid him. ESPN Chicago pays him all that money. He's got that Rolex on.
I'm working on it.
If all 11 parts got to be ticking and moving in the same direction, right? They all got to be doing their job. They all got to be executed, right? If one part of that watch isn't working or isn't doing its job, then guess what? You're going to be doing this.
Yeah.
It ain't working.
Yeah.
It doesn't work, right? So that's the importance of having a team that's connected, right? That's the importance of being detail-oriented as a head coach. That's the importance of not letting things slip, right? Not overlooking things. Oh, we'll get it tomorrow. There ain't no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. We have now. There's now. There's no tomorrow. And you hear about the great teams, right, where you hear stories about players that say, you know what, that inside run period wasn't good enough. We're going to start it over. The players doing that, right? We've had guys like that. I can recall Olin Kreutz doing that a bunch of times, right? Inside run, that wasn't good enough. We're doing that again, Lovey. We're doing that again, Coach. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the type of leadership that you got to have, and accountability that starts from the players, right? The players got to have that type of, mentality and things like that. And then the head coach, the head of the organization, right? The head of the team, he's got to have that type. He's got to be that detailed oriented. He can't let those things, let those things slide either, because what's going to happen is it's going to come back to bite you on Sundays, as we've seen, here in Chicago the past few years.
What I always think about it, or who I always think about, I should say, is Ed Reed. I just seen him talking with. I think he was just talking to a team. Maybe it was with Dion. I remember. I forget where I saw the clip at. But he was talking to a team. He was like, "Listen, like, we used to be in like OTA meetings. We 10 years in. Everybody in this defense is 4 or 5 years in the defense, except for the rookies." He said, "I put my hand up. Hey, coach, hold on.
Yeah,
we got people in here not taking notes."
Yep.
Hey, everybody in here at this point knows the defense, knows what they're doing. But 4 or 5 years, hey, coach, hold on. We got people in here not taking notes. That's not gonna fly. Like, that's what I think about when I think about those detail-oriented type of players. I'm sure y'all had a bunch of them dudes in the locker room, especially on the offensive line, on the defensive side. Like, it's what makes teams great, and it's those small things that turn into the big things, that turn into the big plays. Because what he equated that to was, man, by the time I got on the field, people think I'm guessing. I didn't watch this play so many times. I know where the quarterback's going. I know where Peyton Manning's eyes are going. He's trying to fool me because he thinks I haven't seen this player. I don't know how this is going to work. I saw this play 16 times before Tuesday got here.
Yeah, like you talk about, Ed Reed being with the Ravens, and you talk about the head coach of that team who just got an extension, John Harbaugh, one of my favorite coaches of all time. Even when he was a special teams coach, one of my favorite coaches of all time, just because he was so detail-oriented, right? And it started with him in Philly with special teams. He would tell you all the rules that we didn't even know about. Like, damn, that's a rule. Like, you know what I mean? He knew everything. I'm telling you, I can't make it up. He knew everything. And even when I was in Baltimore, I remember I was having a meeting, and Coach Harbaugh stands up there, and he's breaking down the officials, right? And he has the percentages of, what percentage this official calls pass interference. And he's like, well, this official calls pass interference 20% of the time. So guess what? Put your hands on that receiver. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's only a 20% chance he's going to call pass interference. Like, that's the percentage of his flag, the flags he's throwing on pass interference. Like, that's how detailed he was. And I was like, wow, like, no wonder he's successful. No wonder he's been in Baltimore for a long time. No wonder he just got a 3-year extension to remain the head coach of the Ravens. Like, phenomenal coach, man.
We got to see if Ben Johnson's going to be able to do that, because he's got a tough job here where, listen, you're not to say that you're changing everything about who Caleb Williams is, but he said something yesterday that did perk my ears up. And I do think it's going to be a benefit from it. I want to get your thoughts on this, talking about there are some things that we're going to encourage that he looks to do a bit differently, talking about Caleb Williams here. That he's been predominantly a shotgun quarterback for most of his high school and college career, and so he's very comfortable there. We're going to work to see the comfort level under center and how much of that applies. Now, when he was with the Lions, Jared Goff worked under center 56.2% of the time. Caleb Williams basically was only under center 26.4% of the time his rookie year. And we've seen this a lot with new quarterbacks coming in, J-Mac. The NFL offense is just kind of go, well, he's comfortable with this. Let's start there. Jaden Daniels spent a lot of time in shotgun last season, right? Like, it's not a uncommon thing that Caleb Williams was going through this. The play calls were more the issue that we had there. But when you first talk about how is this going to help Caleb Williams being under center more, how's this going to help him, first off, in the run game and, of course, in his passing game overall?
Yeah, being under center, it just helped. Like, let's start in the passing game, then I'll go to the run game. The passing game is just when you have a coach that, that believes in play action and run action and those things, right? Well, when you're under center, you snap that ball, you turn your back to defense. Where's the ball? The ball's hidden, right? The defense can't see where the ball is, as opposed to when you're in shotgun, right? They see the ball being snapped to you. Their eyes are on the ball, right? They have a visual. So their reads is easier, right? When that quarterback turns his back to that defense, it's harder for the defense to read what's going on. Is it a run? Is it a pass? You know what I'm saying? So you get a better play action fake when the quarterback's back's turned because of that reason, because the defense can't see the ball. But what also happens is there's also hesitation in the pass rush, because now you have those guys, those D linemen, right? They just can't pin their ears back and get upfield because now you can't see the ball. Wait a minute. Is it a run? Is it a pass? Whereas in shotgun, you see me catching the ball and you see me dropping back.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm full speed. I'm coming out my stance. I'm getting there. I got to get to that landmark, and so those are some of the big things. I think also looking at it from a standpoint when you're under center, especially in the quick game, I think things can time up a little bit better, because now in quick game, if that quarterback has a 3-step drop from coming under center, he knows on his third step, once that back foot hits the ground on his third step, that ball's coming out. Yeah. So I think it'll enhance the timing, right? And we know Caleb accuracy is awesome. We know he's got that arm strength. But if he can get that timing down in a quick game, it's real hard to stop, right? Because that ball's coming out now, right? As opposed when you're in the gun, right? A lot of times that quarterback catches that ball, and now he's kind of waiting for that receiver to get open, right? And the defense knows it's passed because he sees the quarterback catch the ball. Like, you have a clear visual. And when you look at it in the run game, it's just awesome, because now we just talked about it with Coach Bieniemy, right? For a running back, when I'm in the eye, right, and I'm running outside zone, right, it's easier for me to have an angle to hit my landmark. So if I'm running outside zone, and my aiming point is the outside leg of the tight end, now I have a clear angle and path to be able to hit my aiming point, right? But what does that do? It also enables a quarterback to set up misdirections, allows a quarterback to set up boot, because now as the quarterback's back's turn, I'm exposing that ball on outside zone, right? And we've been successful running outside zone. The running back's pressing his landmark, the offensive line, they're getting movement. They're getting lateral displacement of that defensive line. But then I pull that ball and I boot the other way. Well, guess what? Now you're creating misdirection, right? The defense is seeing things go one way, now I'm coming back the other way. But guess what? It all looks the same. Why? Because the quarterback's been under center, and we've handed that ball off on outside zone 5 times. All of a sudden we pull it. We got guys open with our boot concept on the backside. So it's a lot of things that you can do with it. I think it also can enhance the snap count. I think if you want to go on the quick or if you want to go silent count, it also gives you an opportunity to be under center. If you go on the silent count, you get the ball quicker. You have the ball right now, as opposed to if you go silent count and you're in the gun, you've got to wait for the ball to get there. So the play develops slower. So it's a lot of things that you can do with the quarterback under center. But I think those are some of the things that I like about it. And I think Caleb can be effective, in those different things that I brought up just because of his skill set. And, totally different skill set than what Jared Goff had up there in Detroit. But, I think Caleb, with the mind of Ben Johnson, and if Caleb can get comfortable of going under center, I think you'll see this offense really take off. You'll see a whole different offense out there.
Now, not to shoot the previous regime any bail, because I think they screwed up a lot of stuff here, but is this something that you think you could have done with the offensive line last season? You saw this offensive line up close and personal. Shotgun is usually a partial way to kind of buy your quarterback a little bit more time because, hey, we can't block nobody up front. I saw Coleman Shelton fall over a lot. So is this something that you think the Bears really could have ran with Caleb last season? Or is it kind of he needed to be in shotgun, which is why you saw that 26.4% last season?
No, I think they should have had a mix last season, right? Because when you're in shotgun, in the passing game, I understand it gives a quarterback a clearer picture. Yeah. But at the same time, you're telling the defense we're passing. So what's happening? The defense line's pinning the ears back. They're coming for the quarterback, right? Yeah. When the Bears were successful in the passing game last year, a lot of the success came off of play action, came off of boots. How many times do we see boot and you see different levels of boots, right? You see DJ Moore in the flat, see Cole Kmet on the over route, you see Rome with the deep over, right? You create three layers, right? You flood the defense on one side, bam, that flats open to DJ Moore. He catches it, runs for like 10 yards. Like when we saw those type of plays, right, we were successful. A lot of times when we're in shotgun, right, we weren't successful because we had guys who couldn't win their one-on-one matchup. Telling the defense we're passing, we know we got to get to our landmark. Whereas if you're under center, it just creates a whole different level of confusion for that defense because they don't know whether it's run or pass because that ball's hidden better by the quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like the only concern I would have is just like how bad the line was. But I think you bring up a great point, right? And that's still going to be the case today. You got to win your one-on-one matchups. Yeah. And we didn't see enough of that last season. In fact, we saw too many times we were just like, don't even look like he tried to win the one-on-one matchup.
Well, it's like, okay, we're bad at pass protection. Well, let's just tell them we're passing by being in shotgun all the time.
Well, we weren't great to run either, Jake. There wasn't a lot of great options last season offensively.
I'm just saying, though, like, change it up.
How does this help, if it does at all, the offensive line? Because I think, again, the conversation I have, and listen, having three new linemen in here, Jonah Jackson, who's been a Pro Bowler, Drew Dahlman, who looked really good last season, Joe Thuney, who's 4 Super Bowls in, all pro, all the accolades that you have. I think that's going to help most of all. But how does this help the offensive line? Well, like guys like Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright. Listen, they had happy feet last season at times, multiple times in games. There were so many drives where the Bears are moving in the right direction. False start. Now we're going the other direction. All right, now that kind of kills the drive a little bit. And with Ben Johnson bringing up that EPA per play yesterday, right, the two things that are going to kill you in that stat actually applying, penalties and sacks. Yeah. Those were the two things that they really had an issue with. How's this going to help the offensive line this year?
Yeah, I think, we talked about Cade and stuff like that, but the main thing is like it gives the offensive line and the offense an opportunity to dictate. And what I mean by dictate is, like I said before, it allows them with the play action, and when you're successful, when you have a good downhill running game and that quarterback turns his back, he sticks that ball out and the defense doesn't know whether it's run or pass, there's a little hesitation. You know what I'm saying? So it gives you an opportunity to get the jump on the defense. It allows you to dictate more, as opposed to being in shotgun where they can see, they have clear vision on the quarterback and on the ball carrier. Oh, inside zone. Oh, it's a pass. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what I like about it. But, I think as we see Ben Johnson, we saw his offense in Detroit, and obviously it's going to be different here. I think you're going to see a variety of different things that we're going to see. We're still going to see shotgun, obviously. We're still going to see a quarterback under center. We're going to see a bunch of motions and things like that. But the one thing we will see is we will see an offense tailored toward his player strengths, right? And that's the beauty of it. And the one takeaway that I took from Ben Johnson's press conference the other day was he likes having a variety of guys with different skill sets, right? Especially the skill players, right?
Yeah.
He didn't, like you said, he didn't want to have a bunch of big 6'5" receivers that can only do one thing, that can only run a go route, right? I want to have a variety of guys that can do a lot of different things, right? So now I have more chess pieces to put in place or to put them where I want in my offense. Therefore, I have the opportunity and a better opportunity to be able to take advantage of the defense because I have a variety of skill sets, but I have a big asset in Caleb Williams who can be that point guard and distribute that football to those chess pieces that I have. And then I also have a solid run game that we can rely on as well to make our quarterback's job easier. But a solid run game makes the offensive line's job easier, especially in pass protection, because now, like I said before, the hesitation, it looks like outside zone. Is it outside zone? I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't just pin my ears back and rush upfield because, hey, the quarterback may pull that ball the last second and now it's boot going the other way, or may pull that ball the last second and now we're going deep on play action. So it's a lot of different things that I think we're going to see. And I think, you have a head coach who obviously understands how an offense is supposed to be married up, how the run and the pass is supposed to be married, how different formations and shifts and motions are supposed to be married up. So everything looks the same, but it's different, right? We're creating the illusion. So you're trying to create the illusion of complexity, right? It looks confusing for the defense, but for the offense, it's simple. We're doing a lot of the same things, but a lot of different things at the same time because of the motions and shifts.
Yeah, I do wonder the big question looming after the comments that he made about, some of the stuff he wants to run out of instead of being a shotgun under center. And even, when using the slot receiver, I think that's the one that's really intrigues me because, he's like, listen, Rome can play in the slot. DJ can play in the slot. Of course, Zacchaeus is a slot guy. But a lot of your plays, right? Not to say that he's going to dink and dunk his way down the field. I think he didn't do that in Detroit. He still took shots, but a lot of those big plays are yak plays. They are, hey, get it to your best receiver in the slot, let him make a play, and let him go get yak. Yeah. That's what DJ Moore does best. That's what Rome Odunze can do best. Rome Odunze a big body. Like, I wonder who's going to occupy that slot more times than not this season, because I think that's going to be a big focus for the Bears this season.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know this. Obviously, I think there's going to be a variety of guys playing that position.
Yeah. Just
because of the amount of movement that Ben Johnson uses in his offense, right? Just because of the shifts, right? You can have, the formation may start one way, you shift motion, and now you got DJ Moore in the slot. Now Rome's in the slot, right? And I think it's awesome because now you keep a defense on his heels. And he even said it in his press conference, he said, now I get an opportunity for us to go on the grass, and we're actually going to see how much these guys can handle and what their skill set allows us to do as an offense. Yeah. And that's very important because like we've seen, like you can put in whatever scheme you want. If your players can't run it, it ain't going to be successful. But if you don't have the ability to be able to tweak an offense or make an offense based upon your player's skill set, then you ain't going to be successful. So, I still, like he said, I think he has an idea of what he wants this offense to be, what he thinks it can be. But until they actually hit the grass, he doesn't know how much these players can handle or what their skill set allows. So I think it's still, an unknown right now of what this offense, can be or what he can actually implement.
Yeah, we'll see what the Bears end up doing, man. I love everything that we're hearing out of the owners' meetings, but I like a lot of stuff that I hear a lot of times, and then I see the product on the field, and it's all a lie. So let's hope this one isn't. Let's hope this one's the truth. I need the truth, J-Mac. I can't handle the truth. No, just
the truth. Hey, the thing
truth will set us free.
Yes, the truth will be if we make the playoffs and have a successful season. That's the truth.
Hey, I'll take a 17-0 season. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but I'll take a 17-0 season. Hey man, we're gonna get up out of here, man. We gonna get up out of here. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. What do you like about the fact that Caleb Williams is going to be under center more, and how do you think that's going to play out for his career this season? For Jason McKie, it's your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down. One love. We'll be back at it tomorrow. As always, peace.